First Take is on the road for our 2016 training camp tour, and today we have made our way from our home in Bristol to Florham Park, New Jersey, and a stop at Jets camp with Gang Green. Welcome back into First Take. Thank you so much for being with us. And look who's here. He's here with us all week, making the road trip. Ryan Clark in the house. Thank you for joining us.
I'm excited to be here. It's
going to be
a good week for us.
Yes.
That's right.
It is.
Watch your mouth.
Oh.
Watch your mouth.
Man, look at this.
Watch your mouth. I'm just saying, you know, Super Bowl champion.
Suspenders and everything.
Yeah, right.
The whole bit, get the gangster style outfit, the suspenders
I
from the 50s.
like the suspenders. That you got a lot of QT with Stephen A.
It's smooth.
It'll be good. All right, let's get into it. So Seahawks defensive end Michael Bennett made his call to action to NFL players. The one he seemed to be calling out by name for not being vocal enough, though, that was Cam Newton. Take a listen.
I just said that, you know, I'm not trying to make a division within the community of NFL players. I'm just trying to bring unity, basically. You know, sometimes you read things and it comes out as like I'm saying that that's the main person, but I'm just saying that we need to work together to come together and what is going on and figure a way that how can we be better and how can we be better influencers and, you know, just want to work well with all the players together. It takes a village to do something like this. It's not going to be one player. It's going to be a group of players. I just want to emphasize that to a lot of the players.
Okay, so since that call out from Seahawks Michael Bennett, he made another call to Cam Newton, this confirmed by ESPN, and he apologized for dragging Cam specifically into the conversation. Stephen A., did he need to apologize?
He did not need to apologize, first of all. And by the way, when we were talking about New England, trust me, I was only joking around. I know Garoppolo's thrown 31 passes in his NFL career. Trust me. But let me get back to the situation and with Cam Newton and Michael Bennett. I don't think he needed to apologize because I don't think that he said anything where he was trying to disrespect Cam Newton, that he was trying to disrespect star players. What he was saying is that we're seeing stars in other leagues step to the forefront and use their cachet to bring attention to an issue that's really permeating our community and this nation as a whole. And at some point in time, you have to take it upon yourself to recognize who you are, not just for marketing dollars, not just for your team, not just for your local, the local organization that you represent, but for society as a whole. In other words, special times call for special people to step up. I don't think that was him saying, Cam, you're not doing it, you're wrong. This player, you're not doing it, you're wrong. What he's saying is call the action. We need this now. Enough's enough. And it's going to take all of us who have cachet, who have a voice, who have the ability to resonate when we're disseminating a message to the masses. It's received and it's felt and it's impactful. We need you guys to step up. I think if he called Cam Newton to explain that, there's nothing wrong with that. But if he called to apologize, I think it's totally unnecessary because I don't think that he said anything. I didn't hear anything where he was trying to attack Cam Newton in any way or should feel the need to apologize. We are living in this microscope, this microscopic world that we're living in. And we're so concerned about what other people have to say and how they'll interpret what we have to say that sometimes we forget when we speak eloquently, that's exactly what we did. And you know what? We need to stand on those words. If we're right and we're honest, then we're right and we're honest. And rather than display a level of contrition because there's concern on how the message is being interpreted, stand on your words and say, this is what I said, this is what I meant, and that is that. I see no problem with it.
I see a problem with it, and I think he did need to apologize. Now, look, Cam Newton would be right for sitting there going, why is my name in this dude's mouth about an issue like this? You know, what did I do? Now, you're right. His intention may have been fine. But if it's misinterpreted some way or besmirches in Cam Newton's imagination his name, then I think the right thing to do is call him up and say, look, this is what I intended. Let me clarify. And if somehow that got misconstrued, I apologize. I think that's a stand-up thing to do. I'm glad he did it. Why did he say Cam Newton's name in the first place?
Because Cam Newton's big time.
That's right. He was talking about, in fact, what led his mind to Cam Newton was when he said some of our our great players. It was great players that put his mind. Who's the first great player he thought of, who is also African-American, the reigning MVP, just played in the Super Bowl, considered by many, if not most, the best player in the game? Cam Newton, who is the NFL's LeBron James in that sense? Cam Newton. Now, of course, we understand that the NBA, its previous commissioner, was forward-thinking in the sense that he branded his league with stars. It was a star-driven league. And commissioners in the NFL have always talked about the shield. It's all about the NFL brand, not the star brand. The current commissioner in the NFL, Goodell, rules with an iron fist, right? Okay, we get that. And Adam Silver is a very forward-thinking commissioner who encourages a largely African-American league to take stands on social justice issues, which is great for Adam Silver, not as great for Roger Goodell in terms of, at least in my opinion.
I don't think Adam Silver encourages it. I just think he does not discourage it.
When he comes, he's come out and said he encourages it.
It's two different leagues, and it's leagues that have been run certain ways as it pertains to African American players. When you look at basketball, it's only 5 guys on the court, right? And so those 5 guys hold a lot of cachet in the league. If a LeBron goes to one team, it changes that whole team. That's not how it works in the NFL. And when you look at the position of the star in the NFL, it's the quarterback position. Now, African-American quarterbacks have just been fighting to have a spot there, to not be compared to other African-American quarterbacks of the past. You see so many times, like it was with RG3, hey, I don't want to be compared to those quarterbacks. Compare me to Steve Young or compare me to these other guys. And everybody he's mentioned was a white quarterback because you're trying to break that stigma. And so now you have this huge issue, this polarizing issue that's going on not just in Baton Rouge, which is where I live, so I deal with it every day. I'm in the community every day talking about it, treating people differently, showing that we can all be together. You have this huge deal in our country, and you're asking Cam Newton, and you say his name as the only name. I think that's why he had to call and at least explain it to him. This is why I mentioned you. I also don't think it needed to be an apology. It doesn't need to be, Cam, I'm sorry. It needs to be, Cam, this is why I mentioned you. And from that conversation, you now have a conversation of how you think he can affect change.
It's interesting that you say that, because that's exactly what I was trying to go with saying. I wasn't saying that he shouldn't call Cam. I was saying that he shouldn't apologize, because I think that his message was a level of respect and tribute to the greatness of Cam Newton and the power that he potentially has to affect change. Now, to piggyback off of what Ryan just explained, let me get historical to some degree when you talk about the black quarterback. Well, let's ignore that for a second and just highlight this reality. If you are a black person, whether you were a quarterback or not, on the come up, in terms of trying to make a name for yourself in the National Football League, you didn't endure trials and tribulations? You know, when you think about Jim Brown, when you think about from Jim Brown to baseball with Curt Flood, to basketball with Bill Russell and Lou Alcindor, ultimately Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, to boxing with Muhammad Ali, there was a plight that existed as it pertained to the African-American athlete. Well, what happened is that ultimately, there's a level of change that ultimately took place. Why? Because people who came before them were willing to take stances and fight the good fight to make sure equity and fairness somehow managed to ingratiate itself into the world of sports and beyond. And you used the platform that professional athletes, because of their cachet, had in order to generate that. So a guy like Michael Bennett comes along, and he's looking at somebody like Cam Newton, and he's saying, okay, it's almost like he was saying, it's your turn. Because this is what was done for you, and had it not been done for you, you wouldn't be where you are.
That's why he had to call with an apology. That's precisely why.
I don't think that's why. I don't think it was an apology.
Because as a professional courtesy, what you do in that instance, before you put his name in it, is call him.
Oh, I agree with that.
Text him, get in touch with him, and say, hey, this is what we need to do. Here's the problem. You brought up Muhammad Ali. In his autobiography, largely apocryphal, many parts of, but his autobiography, he had a whole passage about the difference between Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell. And he was talking about what he perceived as Wilt's, for lack of a better term, selling out of where he came from. Now, I'm sure Wilt Chamberlain defenders, and were Wilt around now, he would defend himself. He can't, but that's from Ali's point of view. And he felt that was one of the reasons Wilt couldn't handle Bill Russell, in Ali's words, on or off the court. Bill Russell was down for the struggle in a way that Muhammad Ali felt Wilt Chamberlain was not. Now, Ali had private conversations with Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, etc. So once he puts that in the public sphere, he's already extended a certain professional courtesy where he's talked about it with these guys. In this case, Bennett owed Cam, we all agree, the phone call, but I also believe in this sense an apology for just to say, listen, before I put your name in it, I should have chopped it up with you.
Right. Well, and see, and like, I understand that, but you also have to understand from the athlete standpoint, there's no preparation. There's no production meeting to that microphone being in front of your face.
Of course.
There's no, here's the list of questions you're going to be asked. And when you're emotional about a topic, when it matters to you, which Michael Bennett has shown us, he's not a guy just talking. This is important to him. And so he wanted to answer this question, and he probably didn't want to give examples that way, but like you said, because of Cam's greatness, because of his spot in that sport, he wanted him to speak up. The other part that I think
agree
is
with
different,
that, by the way. I agree with that. And 1,000 questions a day. It's not a big deal. Cam's reaction should be, I get it. But I do think he owes him that courtesy.
And I think the thing, too, historically, right, when you talk about the Bill Russells and the Muhammad Alis and the Jim Brown, the plight that they were facing, or that everybody was facing, right, whether it was in society, in sports, it was all the same. Now it's masked. It's different. Right? Stephen A can walk into certain places and be treated a certain way because he's Stephen A. Cam Newton walks into places and he's treated like the MVP. Right? So right now the fight he's fighting for, or the plight he's fighting for, is somebody outside of that realm. So you have to get yourself to relate to those people. And I think when you're Bill Russell and you're Jim Brown, you're just fighting for equality as a whole. And so I think it's a different way you have to approach these new guys.
Better in a sense.
Things have gotten better. There's no doubt about it. But I'll close it by saying this. You know, to whom much is given, much is required, as we all know. And when you are a black individual in a prominent position, because our community looks at things a certain way, folks from our community expect us, if we have that platform, to speak. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to agree with every scintilla of what everyone says, but to be muted or to be silent while things are going on within your community from which you came. If you have nothing to say, you are going to get the attention of those from your community who are going to look at you and say, excuse me, do you have something to say? Because we kind of need you to do it.
I want to reiterate what you said earlier, though. Special times call for special people to step up. That's really powerful, and I think that's going to resonate with a lot of different people. Ryan, we're so happy we have you with us the whole week. You'll be back with us in just a bit. When we come back, strong words from LeBron James. We go to the association. He said he's chasing ghosts. We will explain and react. We're so lucky. We got perfect weather out here in Florham Park. More First Take from Jets Camp when we come back.